move on to the next topic, all right, which is investment income. All right, so if you go back to our notes before, we have done, of course, the introduction to taxation, the overview of Income Tax Act in Malaysia, and also the resident status, how to determine the resident status of a person and also a company. And then we have gone through employment income. So, all right, so if you remember, I presented to you somebody want to enter the class? I have no notification. So, no, I don't have any notification. Who's going to enter? Because if you go to my guru, you can straight away join our class. You can log in through my guru. Why you cannot join the class? Okay, there is no notification for, yeah, already entered. All right. All right, so again, you can go back to your previous notes. So we have gone through employment income, and before that I presented to you the different types of income that is chargeable to tax, which are business income under section 4A, and then we have 4B, employment income. All right, and for today we are going to do the rest of the sections for C, D, and also E. And I label it under investment income, and some textbook and even in the notes you can find that this is also labeled as non-business income. So we have 4A, business income, and then 4B, employment income, and the rest are actually non-business income, which is not related to business. And we can say some of them are actually investment income. For example, when you have dividend income, when you have interest income, which means you invest your money somewhere and that will give you return, so in form of investment, or maybe you have a rental income, right? You have a building, you rent it, and then you get the investment income. So as a tax planner, later on, you might came across clients who have also not only employment income, but maybe investment income in terms of rental, in terms of dividends. So we want to know how do we go about these different types of income. All right, so as I told you, I label this as non-business income, and as we all know, business income is taxed under section 4A and employment income is under 4B. So we are going to continue with other sources of income, which are section 4C until F. So basically throughout the semester, we are looking at section 4A until 4F for our chargeable income and the different types of income. It's just that later on we are going to have topics like trust accounts and also what else if I can recall, estates and also settlements. So these are, and also on zakat, so these are quite different. But basically if you learn taxation, individual taxation, the focus is actually on section 4A until 4F, right? So we have done 4B, all right, employment income, 4A later, and we're going to look at 4C until 4F today. All right, so here, this is what we are going to look at today. Other income, 4C, which are dividends, interest, and also discounts. 4D, rents, royalties, and premiums. 4E, pension, annuities, and other periodic payments. And also 4F. 4F is actually for other gains or profits, which is not fall under these sections. You might have certain income that is not fall under these three sections, and we can compute the income under section 4F. All right, so first of all, let's look at dividends. Okay, under section 4C. So dividends is actually I should check here. Right. Dividend is actually distribution or payment out of profits of any undistributed profits to shareholders. Alright. So if you invest your money in a company and the company make profit, the company pay to you the profit in terms of dividend, that can be considered as taxable or chargeable. It can be charged under section 4C. Alright, so it actually represents the part of the company's profit that is distributed to shareholder class. So I think everybody understand what dividend is. And the taxation in Malaysia is actually subject to single tier. We call it single tier system. Dulu, prior to 2014, alright, the dividend that you get from company is actually taxable. When we get the dividend, we can be taxed by the government. But starting 2014, they call it single tier system. So the dividend payments made by companies under this system are not subject to tax. Which means, for example, I invest some money in Petronas, alright, and Petronas pay me dividend. I get dividend. That dividend is actually, in my case, that will not be taxed. Okay, that will be exempted. Because why? The dividend to in Petronas income statement, alright, the profit that Petronas gets is actually net of tax. So the dividend that we get is actually already, the tax is already deducted at the company level. So this is what it means by single tier system. Once the profit is taxed at the company and the company distribute the profit in terms of dividend to the shareholders, so when the shareholders like me and you who gets the dividend, that dividend is not taxed anymore. Okay, you can understand this is the concept of single tier system. Dulu tak, prior to 2014, no. The dividend is already, the profit is already taxed at the company, and then when we as a shareholder gets the dividend, we will be taxed again. Okay, but not anymore, right? So starting 2014. So I don't want to go back to prior to 2014, because when you go out later and become a financial planner or tax planner, we are not going to use this anymore. Okay. So in this case, so corporate income tax are imposed on companies' profit in the form of a final tax, and the distributed dividends are exempt from tax in the hands of the shareholders. All right, so your calculation now becomes easier, and we can say that also the dividends get get in Malaysia is not or is exempted from tax for the shareholders. Okay. And expenses incurred in relation of the dividends are disregarded in ascertaining the adjusted income of that person. So as expenses in relation to exempt income not claimable. So dividend payments in Malaysia are to be made solely from the profits of the legal entity. All right. So this is not much computation for our dividends. All right. What about unit trust? Okay, the dividend that you get from unit trust such as ASB. Okay. Individual holders who are residents in Malaysia will be taxed at their respective scale rates on the income distributed to unit trust holder. So non-resident unit trust holder will be taxed at 28% for year assessment 2016. Corporate unit holder 24%. And we also have public ruling number 5 2013. I really expect you to go to IRB website and check the public ruling. It's under legislation. We have the public ruling. Alright, so for unit trust but as far as I'm concerned, the dividend that you get from the unit trust is also exempted because it is already taxed at the company level. Alright, interest. In this case, so for dividend, dividend when you invest in a company, the company pay back to you the profit in terms of dividend. So for interest, if let's say you save money in banks or Islamic banks and you get interest from your savings, that interest is also considered under section 4C and it can be taxed as well. Alright, so it is actually compensation for the use of or retention by a person belonging to or owed to another. So the tax treatment. For interest, I should skip this part. Okay, we go to this slide. Alright, deemed derivation interest under section 15. So interest deemed derived from Malaysia The responsibility for payment of interest lies with the resident. Money borrowed is used for gross income or laid out on assets, either used in the production of gross income or held in the production for gross income or secured by any property, or when the interest charge is ongoing or expense against any income accruing in or derived from Malaysia. You have one example here, a French company. So we have one example here, a French company which manufactures cars, has a branch in Malaysia, and they provide after-sales support for cars sold to its Malaysian customer. It takes a loan from a Paris-based bank on which interest is payable to finance the Malaysian branch operation. So the French company pays the interest and recover the sum incurred by charging the interest cost to the Malaysian branch. The Malaysian branch is not resident for income tax purposes and hence does not come within the purview of Section 15(2)(a). Nevertheless, the interest will be deemed derived from Malaysia under Section 15(3), as the interest expense is charged as an expense against the income of the branch business operation in Malaysia. So this is not for individual, and this is for company. But as an individual, the interest that you get from your savings, it is also exempted. And we have attributable deduction. Sometimes, in some cases, you have interest income at the same time you have to pay interest expenses. So as long as the outgoing expenses are actually wholly and exclusively incurred in the production of the interest income, it qualifies for a deduction. All right. So exempt interest, this is what we are interested in. So income exempted from tax is the gain of profit, interest or bonus received from money deposited in savings. So for example, you save money in Bank Islam, you save money in Maybank, you get the interest, kan? Even though it is a small portion, interest from your savings, from your fixed deposit or from your investment deposit accounts, it is actually exempted. Alright? So kita nampak tadi the dividend is exempted, the interest is also exempted. Okay? Because both under Islamic banking and also the conventional bank, both interests are actually exempted. Alright, the third one, still under section 4C, is discounts. It is represent deduction made from the amount of a bill of exchange or promissory notes by one who gives value for it before it is due. So it is taxable on a calendar year basis, alright, except for companies. So I think by now you all already understand that for individuals, we are looking at the calendar year basis, which is from 1st January until 31st December. But for companies, it will be assessed under accounting year basis, depending on the company's year end, but not January until December. Okay, and the deductions, again, all outgoing expenses wholly and exclusively incurred in the production of the discount income would qualify for a deduction. Not include. Discount allowed by the traders on the purchase of goods. You purchase items from supplier, you get discounts. Okay, that is not included in the discount income. And also discount received from the creditors for earlier payment. Alright, so this type of discount, the trade discounts ni is not included as the discount income. Exemption. Alright, discount from security issued by Dana Harta Nasional Berhad or Dana Harta Urus. You get exemption from securities or bonds issued or guaranteed by government. So we all learn the types of bonds and securities last semester in our banking class. So all those discounts that you get from these securities or issues or bonds guaranteed by the government is exempted. The income and the discount income. Islamic securities approved by SC, debentures approved by SC, and Malaysian saving bond issued by BNM. So all these coming from the government is actually exempted. Alright? Any questions so far? Because I will go very fast for dividend, interest, and also discounts, because there is not much issue on that income. And if you have no question, we have the fourth one under section 4D, which is rental. This is quite complex. Because rental income, we can have rental expenses or the related expenses to the rental. So it can be either unearned income or source of business income. So everybody knows rental is sum paid for the use or occupation of any premises. So here we are talking about rental of premises. And the basis of assessment under section 4D is based on a calendar year basis, except for companies which are assessed on a financial or accounting year basis. Alright, and one thing about rental income, here we are talking about rental income per se, the income that you get from rental as an individual. Alright, this is rental income, section 4D. It can also be assessed under section 4A if the taxpayer is in the business of rental. Let's say I have 10 buildings, I rent it out. That is not my rental income anymore. That would be my business income because my business is renting building. I have more than 4 buildings, for example. Right? That will not be assessed under section 4D. That will be assessed under section 4A. Right? Do not get confused because under 4D, it's like you and me, we only have like 1 or 2 houses and we don't actually maintain the house. We just repair the basic repairing. That is considered under section 4D. But if you have the whole building for yourself, you rent it out and you provide maintenance, you provide security guard, you provide a lot of things to the tenants, that is not rental income under 4D anymore. That will be under section 4A because it is your business. Okay, that is the difference. So for rental, it can be movable and also immovable property. So if you're talking about immovable property, we are talking about property situated in Malaysia. Cannot move, kan? It's in Malaysia. Or movable property. So sometimes a lessor who owns the asset carries on business in Malaysia, their rental income is derived from Malaysia. If the lessor carries on business outside Malaysia and the deemed provision under section 15A needs to be considered, which means the income individual bring back income to Malaysia. Alright, for rental, again, we have attributable deduction. For example, you own a house, you rent it out, and then one day you have to change the tiles, you have to change the roof, you have to repaint the house, or you have to renovate the kitchen, for example. So these are some of the attributable deduction. You can deduct in your rental income, you can deduct the expenses and your rental income will be lower. So when your rental income is lower, eventually your tax charge will be lower. Alright, so the concept is that just like when we did employment income, whatever adjustment that we have, whatever the deductions that we have, that will actually reduce your income. Eventually will reduce your tax paid. Alright, so that is the tax planning that we are looking at. Alright, so when you reduce your income, automatically your tax will be reduced. Okay. So here we have attributable deductions and also some cases with withholding tax. Withholding tax is for non-resident. Alright, this is what I told you before. Letting of real property is deemed a business source if comprehensive and active maintenance and support services are provided. Alright, so I really hope we can go to Public Ruling 4 2011. It is about real property as a business source. Right, so I add some example here. This is to differentiate whether it is rental income under 4D or rental income under 4A, right? So here we have Swai Sendirian Berhad. They own, this is a company, they own 3 blocks of condominium consisting of 3 to 4 units and let out those units to tenants. So Swai Sendirian Berhad provides maintenance services of lift, cleaning service, security service, centralized air conditioner, and maintenance services of playing fields and car parks. Nampak? The maintenance, because we are talking about here, comprehensive and active maintenance and support services. So here, in this case, the letting of the condominium unit is treated as a business source. Right? Since maintenance services and support services are comprehensively and actively provided. So if we have houses that we rent out, but we don't provide the cleaning service, we don't have lift, we don't have security, we don't have maintenance services, that will not be considered under section 4A. Okay, and that will be under section 4D lah. Right, so we are going to look at examples later on and see the difference between 4A and also 4D. But the focus here is not on 4A, not on the business source. Our focus for this topic is actually on non-business, rental for non-business. So how do you derive rental income? Letting out of land, commercial buildings or residential properties. It can also be letting out of ships, plant, machinery or motor vehicles, right? Can be both. Alright, one issue about rental is advance rental or deposits. Alright, let's say you rent a house from your landlord and you have to pay rental until next year. Alright, this is year 2021, you have to pay rental until year 2022. Okay, what happened to the rental income received by the landlord? Okay, he or she received the income this year, the deposit or the advance rental for next year will be assessed this year. Alright, it is accessible in the year of receipts. Alright, so even though you receive the rental for next year, but you receive it this year, you will be assessed this year, not next year. Alright, it does not consider the rental is for which year. You just consider that whenever you receive, because you must remember the concept of tax is pay as you earn. So here you earn it this year, you have to pay tax for this year. All right. So these are the list of deduction of expenses. Okay, deduction of expenses, which mean when you have rental income, sometimes you have to incur certain expenses. For example, repair and maintenance, cost of rental collection, interest on loan for purchase of asset, fire insurance premium, assessment and quick rent, cost of advertising to obtain tenants. Okay, sometimes when you have one tenant, the tenant dah habis the terms and you have to advertise again, okay, that is also can be deducted from your rental income. Renewal of tenancy agreement, cost incurred for pest control, sewage charges, security services, repainting of the rented premises. So these are the deduction of expenses that we can deduct from our rental income. Alright, I provide with you some notes here, which is, for example, if we have deposits, refundable or deposit for water, electricity and telephone, this is with regard to rental income. It is not taxable. Why? Because the capital, these are considered as capital item. It is a liability deposit. Because deposit kan, you have to pay first, but it is a liability to the landlord. Alright, because you get the deposit, but you haven't provided the service, you get the deposit only. So that would be a liability to the landlord. Alright, assessment is deductible because assessment is considered as revenue expenses and recurring and wholly and exclusively incurred for the rental income. Quick rent for current year, it is deductible. Again, it is a revenue expenses and related to the rental income. Penalty, you are breaking the law, so it is not deductible. Okay. Renovation, it is a capital expenditure, also not deductible. And replacement of damaged tiles, it is deductible because it is a revenue expenses. So how do you actually differentiate between capital expenditure and revenue expenses? Is you can think that if you are doing some we call it addition or renovation. For example, you change the damaged tiles. If the tile is damaged, you cannot stay in the house, for example. All right. Replacement of damaged roof. Bumbung, you have to change. If you don't change the roof, you cannot stay in the house. But if the renovation of kitchen, for example, if you don't renovate, you still can use the kitchen. If you do not renovate or if you don't add extra room, you can still live in the house. Okay, that is the difference between capital and revenue expenditure. If you enhance the value of the building, then it is not deductible. It is considered as capital expenditure. But if you replace something damaged, it is deductible from your rental income. Okay, so I have one example here. I want you to try to calculate the adjusted income from rental source of this Mona. So this is your client Mona provided the following information regarding her residential property in Subang for the year ended 31st December 2020. Right, so this is the income. January until March 16,000, April until May vacant, and another tenant on in June until December 24,000. Deposit refundable and also deposit for water and electricity and telephone which amounted to 70,000. Tinggal line dekat sini. And this is the payment. Because you have to compute again the adjusted income from rental ni based on the information given. This is the receipt from the rental. This is what she gets and this is what she pays. The deposit refund to ex-tenant, the assessment, the quick rent for 2019 and also 2020. Okay. Interest on loan, penalty for late payment, repairs carry out in May. Repainting, renovation to kitchen and bathroom, replacement of damaged tiles, and also installation of air conditioning unit. So this is the net rental 37,640. You cannot furnish these to lembaga hasil because this is not the final rental income of Mona. We have to do some adjustment. All right, so maybe you can try to figure out how much is the adjusted income from Mona ni. Can you calculate now? In your notes, saya tak provide solution kan? You have solution in your notes? Do you have the solutions in your notes? Tak ada I don't think I provide the solution for you. Tak ada. Alright. Okay, so based on the previous slides, maybe you can try to calculate how much is the rental income before we can deduct the deductions. Alright, how much is the rental income that we can include in our calculation based on this figure semua ni? So according to Mona, the receipt is 70,000 but we cannot use this figure as our rental income So as a guideline for you, for the receipts for the rental income, you have to choose which one can be considered as rental income. And for this payment you have to choose which one is actually wholly and exclusively incurred for the rental income because not all can be deducted as your expenses. 66K for rental income. Anyone else? You can just switch on your mic to answer. Let's look at the income first. For sure, it is not 70,000. So how much do you think? $70 is the total. Do not get confused. Saya tak tertinggal the line. Oh, this is picture. Cannot lah. Alright, Siti gives 66,000. The rest, what about you? Rental income, how much? Any other figure? $40. Alright. What about expenses? Or if you already calculated until adjusted income, can you give me some figure for your adjusted income? All right, anyone? Figure for the adjusted income after you deduct all the expenses? Ada tak?
49650.
Okay, we have one figure here, 19,650. All right. So rental income is 40,000. Because from here, as I told you before, when you get the receipts and also the payments, then you have to decide, can we include everything or we have to choose only certain income that can be included as our rental income. All right, so in this case, for rental, we can take 16,000 and also 24,000. Remember the deposit ni, refundable and also deposit for electricity, it is not considered as income because it is a liability. So your rental income would be alright. So this is the solution for you. We have rental income 16 plus 24, but not the deposit. Remember, if you go back here, deposit is not taxable because it is a liability. You get a deposit and deposit to refundable pula tu, you can give back to the tenant. So it is not taxable. When I said not taxable, you cannot include in your calculation of rental income. Okay. So whatever we have here, it is actually the amount that is taxable. So rental income 40,000, deposit not taxable. So leave you with 40,000. So those of you who get 40,000 is correct. And then we have to minus the wholly and exclusively expenses. So assessment, yes, you can deduct assessment. Quick rent, alright. If you look at quick rent, ada dua figure di sini. 390 for 2019 and 390 for 2020, which means Mona incurred 780 ringgit for quick rent. But for quick rent, you can only deduct current year. 2019, you cannot deduct because 2019 must be deducted in 2019. It's just that Mona paid this year. But this year, the only deduction that can be made is current year. Like this one, quick rent only for current year. The next year or the previous year, you cannot deduct. So quick rent, 390. Interest on loan, yes, it is deductible. Penalty for late payment, you are breaking the law, you cannot deduct your penalty. But I expect you to still write. The item, right? Penalty for late payment, no. Repainting, yes, you can deduct repainting. Renovation, no. It is a capital expenditure. Replacement of damaged tiles, yes, it can be deducted. Installation of aircon, no. You cannot deduct installation of aircon because Renovation and installation of aircon are actually capital expenditure, and penalty is you are breaking the law, so you cannot deduct. Because again, we are looking at the figure that will be tax. Cantik lah muka kan, you lambat bayar and then you want to deduct juga, so cannot. Right, so 40,000 minus 19,000, the allowable deductions, we call it allowable deductions, that will give us adjusted income of 21,000. Any question? No question. Okay, you all can understand. This is how adjusted income. Yeah.
Semua jenis deposit tu memang tak boleh consider as income.
If you look at the question kan here, there ada deposit refunded to ex-tenant. So you cannot deduct as the deductions juga. Because at the first place, deposit yang refundable ni is not income. Alright, okay. So next one, let's move on to royalties. Also under section 4D. So under 4D, we have rent royalties. Okay, royalties pun banyak, a lot of calculation that you have to do because there is a lot of exemptions for royalties. So for royalties, it's assessed under section 4D. But it may fall under section 4A if it has a characteristic of a business. For example, an author who sells books. So that income might be assessed under section 4A, not 4D. So the derivation of royalty income, which is where the government, state government or local authority is responsible for the payment of the interest, responsibility for payment of interest lies with the resident, or where the interest charge is an ongoing or expense against any income accruing or derived from Malaysia. Alright, so it is some paid as consideration for the use of or the right to use a copyright, artistic or scientific works, patent, design, models, banyaklah formula, trademarks or tape for video or TV broadcasting or other know-how or information concerning technical, industrial, commercial or scientific knowledge. Okay. So again, for royalties, there are also some attributable deductions, which mean there are certain expenses that you can deduct in order for you to derive at the adjusted income of royalty. There are some exemption of royalty income for resident individuals under paragraph 32A until 32D of Schedule 6, and also withholding tax subject to section 109. This is for non-resident. Okay. All right. This one you have no choice, you have to memorize. For paragraph 32, a sum of 10,000 is exempted in respect of publication of or the use of the right to use any artistic works and in respect of recording this or tips. So let's say you get for that particular year you receive 80,000 of royalty income, 10,000 is exempted based on this one. Okay, 32A, capital A, sum of 12,000 exempted in respect of translation of books or literary work at the specific request of the MOE, MOHE and also AG chambers. Okay, this is sometimes for some, for example, some lecturers or even whoever involved in writing. So sometimes the government, the ministry asks us to translate some books, textbooks. Okay, so when we translate textbook and they pay us, but whatever amount that they pay, we can get exemption of 12,000 because this is actually the request of the ministry. Ministry of Education, Ministry of Higher Education, also AG chambers. This is for law textbook, and no exemption is available in respect of emoluments in the exercise of the individual's official duties. But if your work is actually to translate books for the ministry, you will not get exemption. It's just that, for example, in my case, I am a lecturer here, but I get requests from the ministry to translate books. I get some payment that can be exempted. But if I work with the ministry to translate books, then I will not get exemption because this is considered as my official duties. All right. 32B, 20,000 exempted in respect of the publication of or the use of or the right to use any literary works and in respect of any original painting. Right, this is translation. 12,000, this is painting. 20,000 or publication of literary work. 32C, performance or in cultural performance approved by minister. Full exemption. No exemption is available in respect of emoluments in the exercise of individuals or official duties. Okay, let's say you are a singer, you have to perform and you have approval from the minister, the payment that you get is actually fully exempted. A sum of 20,000 exempted in respect of any musical composition. Let me check if I share with you some computation for the royalty income. And 32E, full exemption given for payment by way of fee or honorarium in respect of services provided for purposes of validation, moderation, or accreditation of franchise educational program in higher education institutions. Right? For example, some lecturers here are actually MQA panels, Malaysia Qualification Agency panels, and they go around the country to validate and also accredit the programs in universities, and they get payment. All right, when they get the payment that they get is fully exempted, okay, because it is actually work for the MQA, for the Malaysian agency of the Malaysian government. So they get full exemption. All right, deduction of expenses. Again, we still have a deduction of expenses which are wholly and exclusively incurred in the production of royalty income. Tak ada example untuk royalty ni. Alright, I add one example for you for royalty. This is just an example for royalty, and we can see how to calculate, especially on the exemption. Let's see, royalty income. Saves. Slash. Right. So this is what we have here for Firdaus. a professor in the UM. So during his spare time, he writes books on Malaysian economics and receives royalty income of 36,000 from his books. In addition, he also receives 16,000 translation fees on translation of literary work at the special request of Ministry of Education. So you have to calculate Firdaus royalty income. So we know royalty income is actually under section 4D. So we are doing section 4D now, royalty income. And then he has royalty income here. The first one is 36,000. Right. Sekarang ni dia dapat royalty income from his books. Always go back to the exemption. So if he writes book, how much is the exemption? Check your notes. If you write book, how much is the exemption?
20,000.
20,000, yes. This is books, So for books, you get 20,000 exemption, which will give you 16,000. Next one, the other translation, This is translation work there. Translation work of 16,000. Okay. How much is the exemption for translation?
12,000.
Okay. So I should put paragraph. Here is paragraph 32. B. This one is paragraph 32. Okay. So exemption of 12,000. So 4,000 here. So the total of his royalty income or adjusted income from royalty is 20,000. Boleh? So whenever you have the different types of royalty income, this is how you should present your answer. So for example here, he write books. So books under paragraph 32B, he get exemption of 20,000. And for translation work, he get exemption of 12,000. Right, so altogether the royalty income that will be taxed is 20,000. Okay, Alright, next one we have withholding tax. This is actually for the non-resident, which means if a company or individual hire a non-resident to work, he or she has to withhold tax on payment under the agreement of that particular non-resident. Okay, and then the non-resident will receive that portion of that income, and under the Income Tax Act ni, the payer or the employer ni liable to make payment to a non-resident and must deduct the withholding tax. I don't have the example for this one, but you can just read the withholding tax part. And last one is the premium, okay, also under section 4D. All right, premium normally form of once and for all payment made by lessee of a consideration for the right to enter into a disagreement or for the grant of a lease. Right, so premium generally held to be a capital sum and the basis of assessment normally for a calendar year or calendar year for others, including individuals. Alright, so this is the format of the tax computation. Alright, this is just to show you, this is the what we are going to have once we finish with every different types of income. So under 4A ni kita tutup dulu, kita belum buat, we haven't done this part for business income, but this is how you should start your computation for an individual who has a business. Alright, for now, we haven't done this part, but this is how you should present your tax comp later on, your tax computation. So we have statutory income from business. Let's say this individual has two businesses, alright, so you can combine business one and business two. Later on, when we do business income, we have to understand how to derive at this statutory income from business one and business two. Then only here you can add up those two. And if let's say the business has an unabsorbed losses brought forward, you can deduct here. Alright, and then we have employment income. Let's say this one person, he or she has business, has employment income and also the different types of income. So employment income, remember like what we did last week, we compute lah macam-macam all the calculation until we arrive at the adjusted income from employment. So you will bring that figure here, and then the dividend is exempted. The interest sum are actually exempted. The rental like what we have for Mona just now, we have to compute the adjusted income again for the rental. Royalties pun sama, we have to compute some adjustment for royalty, and for F is for others. So from here, the different types of income that will give you an aggregate income. If let's say the business is having losses for the current year, you can deduct the current year business loss. And this is where we minus all the approved donations, and that will give us total income. Okay, later on when we do personal reliefs, and kita tengoklah the different types of relief that can be deducted from your total income, and finally we will arrive at chargeable income. And the tax and the person will be taxed based on the chargeable income, based on the scale tax rate. So the higher your chargeable income is, the higher the tax will be. Alright, so if you look at the scale rate, the chargeable income ni is actually for a year kan. So whoever gets income more than, I think 10,000 chargeable income for that particular year, baru kita akan start kira the income tax. Alright, so this is our final objective lah, is actually to compute the chargeable income, especially for your clients later on. So this is how you will help them, especially in planning their tax, particularly on these relief parts and also the exemptions part. So you have to know all the different types of exemptions and also relief. So I have prepared one question here. It's still early, so I think we need like 10 to 15 minutes for you to compute this Mr. Mahen, because Mr. Mahen is a comprehensive. What I have here is a comprehensive example for you. So here, nampak dia ada semua. So you all try buat dulu, and then we come back to this in a short while. So we have here Mr. Mahen, a retired senior lecturer from a public university, on reaching the compulsory age of retirement on 30th April 2018. So he furnished the following information to his accountant. So we can say furnish information to you juga as a tax planner. So salary per month up to 30th April 9,000, pension 4,000, golden handshake. This is payment in lieu of leave or retirement. So you can check your notes what is payment in lieu of leave ni. And also gratuity 125,000. He has dividend income, dividend from Hong Kong totaling 12,000 remitted to Malaysia, dividend from Palu State Berhad, single tier dividend, capital repayment of 3,000 from Care Investment on 7 December. He has interest income, 6,000 from investment of 150,000 in the 12-month fixed deposit in public bank. Royalty income, okay, he write a book, improving productivity, blah, 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 earn royalties of 46,000. He paid 6,000 to a colleague to edit the book. He also undertook a research on corporate governance and he commercialized his research findings. Mr. Mahen received a royalty of 25,000. Rental income, ada juga lagi rental income. Bungalow in Bangsa, he rents out to expatriates, rented out 4,000 a month. So tenant who had stayed in the house for 5 years moved out on 30th May 2018. So he took the opportunity to repair and paint the house, was rented out again to a new tenant. So the tenant paid him deposit of 8,000 and advance of 4,000, and he incurred the following expenditure. Nampak? Ada quick rent, fire insurance, advertising cost, repair, switch, new air conditioning. Loan installment of 2,000, interest portion is 900. Started a new job with a salary of 10,000 per month at a private university on 1st June 2018 after a holiday in India. Compute the total income, tak nampak bawah ni Total income for Mr. Mahen for year assessment 2018. Alright, so for now, I want you to try. And you find it overwhelming. There are a lot of information here. So how you should go about this type of question, don't panic. This is the example of your exam question juga. So whenever you get this kind of question, we always start according to sections. For A, dia ada business tak? Does Mr. Mahen has business income tak? No, right? No business income. You go according to section 4A, B, C, D, E, F. So 4A, no business income. Then we move on to 4B, employment income. So now I want you to compute the employment income dulu. Because we will go back to this format. You see? So Mr. Mahen doesn't have business income, the red part ni. So we start with employment. And you can continue dividend, interest, rental, royalty, susun je until you get the total income. Alright? So I give you maybe 10 minutes to try to list down the different types of income dulu, and we go through the answer later. Let me continue recording. Okay, so this is basically some of the questions that you can see in our exam later on, or in your real life clients later on. He or she might have a lot of income from different types. So what we can do from this question, I just share my solution with you, but I'm sorry, ni agak sengit sikit because I scan. Okay, you all can see This is for our Mr. Mahir. Alright, so he is a retired lecturer. So you have here his income, salary for that particular year 2018, 9,000 times 4 months plus 12,000 times 7 months. Okay, 120,000. Any problem with this 120,000 tak? Okay, everybody gets the figure for 120,000 ni. Alright, pension, if you look at schedule 6, it is exempted sebab dia memang dah umur retire, so exempted. The golden handshake is also exempted. The gratuity is exempted. Right, go back to our employment income, and if this person retire according to the mandatory age, these are all exempted. Alright, and then he gets dividend income, okay, from Hong Kong. Hong Kong dividend exempted, right? Remember, dividend kita semua exempted, but I still have to put here the types of dividend. Palusti Berhad, exempted. Can investment also exempted, right? So all the dividends are exempted. Let's look at the interest income. Interest income pun, because interest income here is actually interest from saving in public bank. Alright, like I mentioned before, the dividend is exempted. The interest from banks in Malaysia pun exempted. So tak ada apa for dividend and interest, even though you're given a lot of figures there, they are all exempted. Alright, so for royalty and rental, saya letak royalty dekat atas dulu. Rental kita buat dekat bawah because rental panjang. So I start with royalties. Alright, so there is a royalty from book. But remember, there is also expenses of 6,000 for the translation. Mana tadi the question dia? Alright, he writes a book, okay, earn royalties 46,000, but he paid 6,000 to a colleague to edit the book. Alright, so that is actually an allowable expenses, because that is also expenses that can be deducted. 6,000, so dapatlah 40,000. Then only we deduct the exemption. Jangan deduct exemption kat atas lagi, because here he has expenses. So you deduct the allowable expenses first, then you. I saw ada question dekat chat. For the royalty, para 32 and 32B. Okay, 32 is for the exemption lah. Tak apa, kita tengok dulu the answer. Okay, so royalty from book 46,000 minus the expenses 6,000, then only kita deduct the exemption. Paragraph 32 without A and B tu is actually artistic work. Books bukan. Books under 32 B. Alright, so 40,000 minus 20,000 exemption, that will give us 20,000. And remember in the question, there are the research findings, royalty from research finding. Okay, this part tadi I haven't discussed with you. For research findings, alright, they automatically for research finding, the government give 50% kita kata exemption, 50% exemption. Alright. So for research findings ni, dia dapat 25,000, but he get exempted of 50,000. This is under section, saya tak letak dalam notes, this is actually under public ruling ni. Alright, so whenever you see research findings, royalty from research findings, the exemption is up to 50%. Terus darab macam ni je, 25,000 times 50%. So the income that will be taxable is 12,500. Okay. Next, let's move on to rental income. Alright, so far okay ke? Any question for employment income, dividend, interest and also royalty? Very clear because royalty here is just books So books kita terus tolak 20,000 exemption je, buku. Okay. Dia tak ada translation work kan, dia buku je. Alright, then rental income. 9 month times 4,000. Right, remember deposit did not rental income. And then advance rental income, advance rental ni, alright, advance rental ni dia kata dia dapat dekat sini advance of 4,000. Remember advance rental walaupun advance tu untuk tahun depan, it will be assessed this year. Right, that is why in our calculation we have advance rental 4,000 here. Right, that will give us 40,000. Alright, and then we have to deduct all the allowable expenses. Quick rent and assessment 1,000. Interest on loan, okay, interest on loan 900 there. You see, look at the question. The loan installment of 2,000 but interest only 900. Alright, the loan installment we cannot deduct all kita hanya ambil the interest portion sahaja. Just the interest portion. Right, interest on loan, not all the loan amount. Interest on loan 900 times 12 months. Sewage fees, fire insurance, advertising cost to find tenant, repairs and air conditioning tak boleh lah. Alright, so that will give us aggregate income of 171,404. Approved donation tak ada and total income 171,404. There is a continuation to this question but for now we are only doing section 4B until F. I've excluded the personal relief part. So we only compute until total income, not until chargeable income yet. Alright? Any question? So for rental income is a bit long lah. So this is how you should present your answer. Go by section. Ada soalan?
Madam,
Yep.
untuk dividen, ada ke dividen yang boleh, semua jenis dividen tu akan dikecualikan ke?
Most of them, yeah.
Interest pun sama.
Interest pun sama. Biasanya interest pun sama. So what we have here dividend, kalau we tengok tadi dalam my notes tu on the tax computation tu, dividend memang exempted je. Because here you see dividend, ada dividend from Hong Kong buat balik Malaysia pun ada kan. Ada dividend in Malaysia and also dividend from outside bringing back the dividend into Malaysia. All are actually exempted here. Nampak? Hong Kong dividend exempt. Palo Steel single tier tak perlu. Right, so dividend, in general dividend are all exempted. But you can write macam ni. You can include the dividend here but you write exempted here. Sama juga dengan interest Interest pun exempted. Tak ada interest Alright, in your My Guru portal under the learning material, I have included questions sekejap. Okay, you have Mr. Sim here in My Guru portal. I want you to go back and try this question and we can discuss this next week. But also in your My Guru, starting I think at 10 just now, I have also uploaded one question that would be your quiz for today's class. And you have to submit by 2 o'clock today. Submit juga dekat My Guru tu lah. There's a question on rental income. So I want you to submit that later today. And this one you can do it later and we can discuss this next week. But for this one saya nak tunjuk satu for Mr. Sim ni, it's already in your My Guru under your learning material. So we have here Mr. Sim with the employment income, all the benefits apa semua. It's a good question for you to try. But please I want you to exclude this last paragraph. Jangan buat apa-apa dengan paragraf yang lastnya. Take the information up to this only. Up to semester fees ni. So this final paragraph ni, this is actually related to personal relief. Nanti when we do the personal relief part, we'll come back to this question. Boleh? So for now, I want you to compute up to total income only for Mr. Sim. Alright, total income only, not chargeable income. Ignore yang bawah ni. So please ignore the last paragraph because we haven't done personal relief. Simpan dulu. That's why this kind of question kita boleh buat separuh-separuh. Alright, so I want you to calculate up to total income for Mr. Sim and ignore the final paragraph. Alright, and when we do personal relief later, we can come back to this question. And I have assigned to you one quiz on rental income on your My Guru portal. So you have until 2 o'clock to submit. So please make sure you submit the answer to the portal juga lah. Alright. And one more thing. Ada soalan tak untuk Mr. Mahir ni? Any question for Mr. Mahir? Ada Alright, one more thing about your assignments Rasa macam saya dah letak soalan. I think I've uploaded the group assignment question. Let me check. Oh, belum.
Madam,
Yep.
boleh ke I share the answer just now to the group?
Boleh, boleh. For Mr. Mahen tu. Alright, I want to go through with you our group assignments because you have to form a group later. Alright, so this is what I have for our group assignments. Alright, I haven't uploaded in my guru for this one. So this will be your group assignment. And it will be 20% for CLO number 4, our last CLO. So I want you to form a group of 5. And you are required to prepare 2 things. 8 to 10 minutes informative speech and also a full report, minimum of 2,000 words that inform the audience about a particular issue listed below. So I want you to research the topic and cite a minimum of 3 sources. References must be reliable, relevant, and must be presented in the report using APA referencing style. And you have to submit your outline prior to the speech. So you must create, speak, record, and publish the speech as a group. So you alternate edit sikit lah nanti and also you need to send me the proof that you discuss and work in group. For example, you can send me a photo or video of you working together. You just a screenshot of you discussing. And this is the format of the report: the introduction, prior studies about the topic, discussion, summary, and references. So you need to give me the outline or the draft of your speech in week 7. So remember, you have 2 things to do. Satu speech video, another one is a full report. Full report will be submitted later. So speech to be published in week 11, and you have to publish your speech in YouTube later. I'll go through the detail with you later, but this is basically what you have to do. And I have here 20 topics. So saya tak nak ada group yang redundant. Even you and group A pun saya tak nak, but this is an advantage for you. I share with you the topics first. So once you have a group, you can choose the question and I will delete the question, and group A later on will get the remaining of the question because I have 20 and I have calculated, and you also akan form into 20 groups nanti. If 5 of you in a group, so akan ada 20 groups. That is why I have 20 questions here. So you can choose first. Topics already chosen will not be shared with group A later. Okay. So if you want, I can copy this to our WhatsApp group and you can choose lah which question that you need so that I can delete terusnya nanti the question from group A untuk choose. So basically the list of topics are quite general because this is regarding our professionalism. For example, I want you to discuss if you're interested the implication of package and economic to individual and family in planning the individual financial plan post COVID-19. Discussion on the COVID-19 pandemic impact on financial services. So this is basically regarding our financial services industry. Impact of early withdrawal of PRS, and some can go up to loan moratorium, difference between financial planner and financial advisor, ethical issues, challenges facing financial planner advising aging clients. This is also issue, challenge for you to advise client yang dah tua ni or maybe mentally pun impaired kan, but they have money, so it is an issue as well, or challenges. Or maybe factors that may be influencing ethical decision making within financial services organization. And we have the term ethical blindness, can be defined as a temporary inability of a decision maker to see the ethical dimension. Now nanti when you become a financial planner, you nampak duit je kan. So alamak, ethics over money kan. So these are also the challenges. Value of professionalism for financial planners. Ethics of tax avoidance and tax evasion. So differentiate between tax evasion, avoidance and tax planning. Factors that can influence zakat collection, effectiveness of zakat. So I include every relevant topics in the question, so you can choose later on. Baca lah and pilih, and most importantly 5 in a group. Alright, so I will share the question in our WhatsApp group, and then once you finish, then I will upload the rest of the instruction in our My Guru portal. Alright, if you have any question, feel free to ask, and don't forget to attempt the rental income quiz. Buat dan hantar, because last week quiz pun ada, I think in this group ada 3 orang kot tak submit, I don't know why. And please make sure you submit all the assessment that I've assigned to you. Alright, ada soalan tak? Tak ada, okay. So if you have no question, we'll continue next week, and I'll share with you the list of topics for your assignments. Alright, yeah.
Untuk kuis yang minggu lepas tu, hari Ahad tu, ada tak yang dapat 12/12?
Saya tak check lagi, rasa macam ada.
Okay, tengok jawapan.
Okay, alright.
Okay, then thank you.
Okay, I'll share next week. And also, so you have 3 things to do. 1 is rental income quiz. 2, try to do Mr. Sim tu. You have 1 week to complete Mr. Sim tu pun quite technical, the question. And number 3, you choose your topics for your group assignments and form a group. Okay? Alright, so if you have no more questions, thank you very much for today. I'll see you next week.
The title for the group assignment tu, Madam akan hantar tajuk dulu kan, baru kita orang masuk.
Yep. I'll share later. Saya copy je nanti masuk WhatsApp group.
Thank you, Madam.
Alright, okay. Thank you.